Hello and welcome to Unacademy. I welcome you all to this session. Good morning to all of you. We have an interesting set of topics lined up for us, and we have also two very important announcements for you. Now, before we talk about the announcements, let's look at the topics which we are going to cover. The first one is the indigo crisis and what we can learn out of it. This is a new tendency which the Hindu has developed, which is that sometimes it has no contributors, so therefore it randomly takes up issues which now may not be relevant. But an interesting one with regards to how the American model can be used. Then we have a Supreme Court case which is in focus. There is one more case which was in the news that we will cover separately, that in a way needs a separate video altogether, where the bureaucrats, politicians and the Supreme Court has reprimanded them for not talking in very loose terms and racial slurs, or with regards to caste based or varna based discriminatory terms, and even religious derogatory terms. There is a lot which is going on in that needs a separate video, which we will have for sure. Then we'll talk about the RIN mutiny. Why? Because RIN mutiny happened on 18th February 1946. It is the 80th anniversary per se of it, and therefore interesting topic in that regard. Then we'll talk about France and India. We have renewed the defense cooperation. Then the AI summit is on in Delhi, and Indian Army is showcasing a lot of interesting things. We have a lot of terms here which I will let you know. And then we have the AI mission 2.0. And last but not the least, Airbus is going to develop a very important helicopter in India, in Kolar, in Karnataka. We'll discuss that. Now, the two important announcements for you is that the 17,999 of price is on right now, is live right now, but it will end tonight. You have to use the code IAS English so as to be tagged to our team. The second is at 2 p.m. today, I'll be conducting my third session of Conquer Prelims Phase 2. On 16th and 17th, we discussed Modern India Part 1, which was before 1857, and the other one was after 1857. If you have not attended those sessions, you should. They are available on the profile. For this session, in which today's session, we will be discussing ancient and medieval India. You just have to scan this QR code to get the link. You also have the, you can say, link in the description box. You can use that also. So I'll be discussing the previous year questions. So the model which I've been following is we're discussing all the previous year questions, plus we are also practicing questions on the same pattern in the session. Close to 30 questions we cover in that 1.5 hours. And the idea is to make you, you can say, pattern ready. You need to understand what is the larger pattern which is being followed by UPSC. So today, ancient and medieval. Tomorrow, we will do art and culture. So 4 sessions are allocated. In that, 2 sessions for Modern India. These 2 are already done. I hope that you will watch them. You can always go to my profile on the Unacademy platform and you'll find both of them. Today, I hope to see you at 2 p.m. All of these sessions are happening at 2 p.m. So I hope that you will join me live at 2 p.m. Okay. Comprehensive course on internal security starts as soon as ethics will be over in plus, internal security will be there. Okay. Now the first topic, are we all ready? Can we start? Good morning to all of you. Can we start, all of us? I want your assertion. Yes sir, no sir. Good morning, good morning. Okay, ready, very good. Okay. So we all know, we may have been affected by it. We were all privy to, and we were part to a crisis, a proper self-inflicted crisis, which was the indigo crisis. With the working hours and roster changes, we all saw what happened with regards to one major airline partner when it ceased to operate in certain routes or was asked to reduce the number of flights. because they work with a connected network of aircrafts, there was a proper crisis in India. Not good for the tourism industry, not good for the people of India generally, but there were 3 to 4 very important conclusions which were basically coming out of this whole conversation. What we mean by that is that what happened in the Indigo crisis, 3 major issues were brought to focus. The first one was a near monopoly on certain routes and the over dependence on one company. Meaning, on certain routes, there were no other partners. It was just Indigo. If there was Air India Express, if there was SpiceJet, the volume was so low that the passenger traffic could not be taken into consideration. The second issue which came out was the pricing. In this, DGCA actually had to intervene because once Indigo started to cancel the flights, Air India Express, Air India and the other partners, Akasa, they could go for any price available and people were so desperate that they had to take it. Here DGCA introduced a capping that you can't take more than this. And the third issue is the operational crisis, which was of the pilots, how we need more pilots and how we need more air hostesses. The bigger issue was of pilots. The flights were there, the planes were there, but the pilots were not. Now, what this article points out is that the DGCA and the ministry played a important role in managing this crisis, right? They were able to intervene at multiple points. But today in India, if I remove this crisis also, if we remove this crisis from our understanding, in certain routes, in certain cases, a lot of these airline companies have near monopolies which allows them to abuse the market. I'll give you a very simple example. And you'll automatically understand it. Let's take into consideration Bangalore. Right? Bangalore, major city, hub. And you take Delhi and Ranchi into consideration. This is, I'm telling you from personal experience. And this you must have seen if you are going to Darbhanga, if you're going to Patna, if you're going to smaller, you can say airports or exclusive airports, you will see this. Now, for example, Delhi, Bangalore, there are close to 60 flights. 60. Some are direct. For example, you will find close to 15 flights direct, and some are hopping, which is they would be coming from somewhere to Bangalore to Delhi. Now, in this, the price ranges from 5,000, and on a very bad day, you will get it at 10 to 11,000. Meaning, after a point, it will not go over 13, 14 if you're booking that same day and it's a holiday. Though we've seen worse, that's a separate issue altogether. This is decided by what? This is decided by demand and supply. Demand and supply. How many people want to go to Delhi and how many flights are going to Delhi? It's pure demand and supply. And herein there is an intervention by the company itself, which is called the algorithm. They use algos, and those algorithms understand the demand and supply, and because profit orientation is most important, they adjust the prices. You must have seen, if you've checked a flight beforehand in Make My Trip or something like that, and if you keep on checking it on a daily basis, the flight ticket will not go down after a point, because the algorithm has understood that you want to use that route. So it will not reduce it. Now let's take Ranchi, Bangalore. The problem with Ranchi, Bangalore is that Ranchi is an airport where there are no parking facilities. Meaning, if the flight is reaching there, it cannot park overnight there. It has to leave. It will go somewhere for sure. It will not be parked at Ranchi. Now, at Ranchi, or for example, Goa also in that regard, Ranchi airport, the problem is that there are only 2 flights in the morning, 2 flights in the evening. One Indigo, one Air India Express, one Indigo, one Air India Express. Now, in this route, both of them have mere, I'll not even say a mere monopoly, it's a pure proper monopoly, and 8,000 would be the base price for something like this, and you can get a ticket for 24,000 also if it is festive season. 18, 19,000, 16,000, 17,000 is the standard price you will find after a certain point of time. Sometimes 6,000 when there is no demand per se. What am I trying to tell you here is, I am trying to explain to you how, without having a monopoly, because of the number of flights which are operating between 2 airports, a company can use the or misuse the opportunity and do price manipulation. And this price determination and manipulation is something which DGCA does not track. And that is the whole point of this article. The article points out is, yes, cartel behavior as it is called. The problem is that price determination is something what DGCA does not take into consideration. So, whilst managing a crisis is very good, a data-driven system in which price manipulation and price determination is not tracked creates a lot of opaqueness. And therefore, we need a framework in which we can understand how demand-driven spike is different from abuse of market power. And I'll be very honest with you, you must have seen this in recent times, that certain airlines will act like mafia because they know there's no other option. The simple point is, after the Air India crash, there was a lot of negative perception of Air India, and Indigo could do anything. They can do anything and everything, and nobody will say nothing to them. Why? Because they are the only airline partner which operates on that route. And this is what is called as abuse of market power. So what the market as of right now lacks is price transparency, and how is a demand driven spike different from an abuse of market power and price determination. Vistra does not exist. Vistra is Air India only now. The basic point which this article is trying to point out is, there is opaqueness in this market. Now, what are the possible solutions? Now, before we talk about solutions, do we understand the problem here? How in a free market also, being the only actor can allow you to become a monopolistic partner and then price manipulate and determine the price in such a way that it does not seem like a demand-driven price hike, but rather abuse of power. Okay, so we are on the same page here. Now, what this article points out to is called the US model, the BTS model, which is called the Bureau of Transportation Statistics. Now, before we go into the details, what the argument is here is that, see, DGCA as of right now only tracks 2 things. The DGCA tracks 2 things right now. Volume of, you can say, travelers, and the volume or number of flights. Meaning, if you will ask the DGCA, what was the average price on a certain route, they will not be able to tell you. They can tell you how many people were traveling. They can tell you how many flights were operating. they can't tell you what was the price in that route. No price tracking mechanism. Yes, very good. Now, what the article says is that the BTS has a very interesting model, which is called the Airline Origin and Destination Survey. Under this survey, it randomly takes 10% sample size, meaning out of all 100% of the tickets which are sold, random 10% tickets are taken into consideration, and the domestic ticket price is also tracked. So, ticket level data and tracking is also there. Now, why do they collect this data? Because they want to understand the actual price at which the route is operating, how many to and fro's are actually happening, and what is the carrier doing to determine the price. Now, India, there is no such behavioral tracking. There's only tracking of the volume of flights and people. Now you will say, sir, what is the point of doing this? See, if we introduce a 10% sample size, sample tracking if we call it, now if DGCA is doing this on a monthly basis, then ticket level means for how much one ticket was sold for. What this does is, what this will introduce is, over the long term, it will introduce transparency. It will introduce transparency. What we mean by transparency is that because Indigo knows that the DGCA is looking at last mile or last point price tracking, its algorithms will start to reflect a little bit of the change. Meaning, where they were able to sell, for example, for 34,000, and they know that out of the sample size, there's a chance for that 34,000 to be also taken as sample, there will be some form of internal mechanism of checking monopolistic behavior. This is a very interesting point. And the analogy which this article gives is, it is like a speed camera. It is not about penalization. It's about creating moral pressure and a deterrent with regards to long-term compliance. Whenever there's a speed camera, you don't think that I will get a challan. It's about knowing that there's a speed camera, so therefore I will control my speed automatically. Same way, if the airline partners know that they are in a way being monitored at the price level also, it will automatically promote transparency. And this is a very, very interesting point which the article makes. So, for greater transparency, self-regulation will automatically come. When fair data are open to public scrutinization, they will bring in ethical guardrails which will make sure that they are not doing something which they should not be. So, therefore, there is a question of ethics here also. It is the idea of inducing morality into this system. Now, the only problem which lies is that the airlines will say that our algorithms are the secret sauce. How we determine prices. That is a software which I have developed proprietary, and I have put in a lot of research and development into it. Why should I reveal to everyone how I determine prices? This is where the 10% sample size should not be a problem. And we are not asking how it works. We are asking what the price is. And therefore, the mechanism should not be resisted by airlines because it's a global standard which is also followed. So, before we look at a question which can be made out of this area, let's see what it means per se. So, the airline crisis. Now, I'm giving you the overall mind map. It revealed three major issues. One was pricing, the other was operations, and the other one was monopolistic behavior. Monopolistic behavior. Now, what the institution which protects us from all of this is DGCA. But the problem is DGCA takes into consideration volume of flights and passengers. There is no price tracking. By introducing a randomized price tracking mechanism, we automatically introduce transparency into this system. Does this make sense? Does this make sense? How the thought process is, how everything stacks up together. Do we understand this? Because the UPSC can give you a question like this. The DGCA must pivot from ad hoc fare caps and investigations to data first framework. Data, where do we include it? Transparency also about there, it comes here. Here, it is what you can add here also. No transparency. So this question, the most important argument is data first framework. We should be having a price mechanism also in place. Interesting, that was interesting, right? Okay. Moving on to the second article. The second article deals with nutrition. Now, we all know that the way we look at food today is we have homemade food, which is one of the best, one of the safest in that regard. If the water is not contaminated, rider. Second is processed food. Processed food would be, for example, if you go to a food stall and he's making it in front of you, that is a little bit processed in the way that they're using finished products. Then you have ultra processed food. Ultra processed food is the fast food which you see. Quick, very quick to make. Everything comes in batches, frozen and just assembled in front of you. Now, the ultra processed food industry has created a crisis not just in India but across the world, and it's a health crisis. Hypertension, which is high blood pressure, diabetes, pre-diabetes, and when it comes to even the way we are being poisoned by some form of food coloring and some form of artificial sweeteners, it's a market which has health consequences. Now, we all know that there is this influencer who tries to induce good behavior into and trying to point out how Bournvita, for example, Kisan, for example, Nestle were always giving bad products or very ultra processed products, sugar rich products, and he has won a lot of the what we call as judgments, or rather we'll say won a lot of cases where the judgment has favored him. Food Pharma, you must have seen some video for sure. Label Padega India, something like that. But he can induce, you can say this type of behavior, he can publicly shame them, he can go for cases, but the most important regulatory body right now, if in India it has to be done through the FSSAI, which is the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. FSSAI is the body which basically decides how nutritional content will be pushed, what should be on the label, and how it will be presented to you also. Now, here again the Supreme Court comes into context. The Supreme Court has now directed the FSSAI to consider that the labeling of food data, nutritional data, must have seen this carbohydrates, trans fat, fat, sodium, chloride, all of that. That data should not be on the back of the label, but or rather of the packaging, but on the front. Legible, so that you can read it and understand it, and in vernacular languages if needed, so that people who cannot read English still can actually read and understand what is happening. This is specifically for high sugar content and high salt content and ultra processed products. The idea is that the Supreme Court is arguing that we have to change the labeling and the packaging of the different, you can say, ultra processed foods in India, so that people can make better choices. So for high in sugar, salt and saturated fats, they are considering it, making it mandatory for front of package warning. That too with warning, saying that this product has high salt, high sugar and saturated fat, and it can always say avoid if you are hypertensive and diabetic. So please understand this point, that this is where the Supreme Court is again batting for you and me. For you and me. And the NGO which is involved, NGO, the 3S and R Health Society, they are saying when people become aware of the nutrition, they actually take or make better choices. And that is where they are saying that we have to make sure that high, what is called the high S salt, sugar and saturated fat, these products should always be labeled correctly. They have also asked for one more thing which may not go through, which is an indigenous way of creating an Indian nutrition rating model. It's a good, interesting concept. The concept is that India should have a rating. If it says 8 out of 10, it means it's a good product, has less oil, less salt, less sugar. If it is 1 out of 10, then it is a very, very high sugar, salt or saturated fat content. An indigenous system which rates the products, the people should not be needing to just look at the label also, they can just look at that score and understand. FSSAI is saying that that is not possible because it is against global standards, not something which is followed anywhere. We can't develop that. But the Supreme Court is saying that you should at least consider putting the label in the front rather than in the back. So the idea is very simple. If you will see a lot of healthy products actually have perceived as healthy, have their label in the front, give you all the nutritional content in the front itself. So the idea is very simple. This is a concept where the Supreme Court is trying to induce change. But in this article, there's a lot of good information for you to use in the examination also, which is why are they doing it? The question is why? Why? Because 11.4% of in India have, or Indians have, diabetes, which is a very big number, very, very big number, 101 million people. 136 million people suffer from pre-diabetes. Hypertension, 35.5% Indians. Abdominal obesity, close to 40%. High cholesterol, 24%. And the only way to, you can say, change this is when you change your diet, and that can only happen from front of package labeling. This is called FOPL, which is front of label packing. This is a very FOPL rather, yes. FOPL, this is a very important concept which is emerging. So, how do we assess all of this? See, there's a health crisis, and that health crisis is based on hypertension. We have diabetes, and we have obesity, or rather we'll say nutritional deficiencies. All of this can be controlled through diet, and that needs to have an positive behavior and choices. To make that happen, FOPL is very, very important, which is giving the nutritional content on the front so that people can make informed choices. People can make informed choices. This is the whole point. So the first article talks about price mechanism, price determination and price transparency. Second one talks about how Supreme Court is inducing the FSSAI to do something. This should have come from FSSAI to itself, but the lobbies of these big companies is very big. So the Supreme Court is making sure that we as Indians can take better choices, make better choices in food when we are made aware of the nutritional content, right? So I hope first two articles is sorted. Are we all clear? First two articles, nothing out of the box per se. We had data point on BD, you can say subsidy and prices, so nothing really for a UPSC aspirant per se. And the what we call as the text and context today was also something which needs to be dealt separately, not within this framework, which is satire and how it has to be understood in political context. And the Supreme Court again has argued that satire is important. So these are two articles which we have to deal separately. We'll have separate videos for it. That is why I'm not covering it here. Now, the RIN mutiny, 80th anniversary, February 18th is a very important date. And the RIN mutiny, Royal Indian Navy mutiny, which started in the HMIS Talwar, is generally considered an important event. Now, I'll be very, very clear about one thing. The way this article is written, it is written like people don't know about RIN. Technically not true. There's a new way of, you can say, arguing nowadays that a lot of people tell us events which everybody already knows in ways that they think that we don't know. Like RIN mutiny, Pune Pact, these are very well known, you can say, historical events. So Royal Indian Navy mutiny is something which we discuss part and parcel standard protocol of modern India. Now the second way in which it is written is that it is just a mutiny or it is a revolt. Now again, we know that it starts as a mutiny and has popular character. And therefore, let's try to contextualize what is the reason why RINM. I'm just having a basic conversation with you where we basically are having a discussion. Where we're having a discussion per se, which is what is the concept. Now, RIN timing is quite interesting. It happens once the INA movement has faded out and the INA trials happen in this November and December of 1945, all of them being heroes of the Indian cause and the Indian nation. And INA trials becomes like a trigger. Add to it the deployment of the Indian sailors, as they call ratings, in Indonesia and in the Second World War. Along with that, if we add the concept of the very bad food plus racism, or we call the racial discrimination and colonialism itself. This mutiny started as a reaction to one rating writing on the HMIS Talwar, quit India, and the idea was very simple. He was prosecuted, and that prosecution will lead to the HMIS Talwar to go for a mutiny, and then it will spread through Bombay. So it will start at Bombay, but at the height of its, you can say, level, the mutiny transformed into something bigger, because then the people of Bombay came to the help of these ratings, gave them a lot of food. Thereafter, 22 different naval posts, 78 ships, close to 3,000 different ratings. Even the Royal Indian Air Force, the Royal Indian Army, and the Royal Indian Navy all will get affected by it, and it will transform from just being a mutiny which started in Bombay to something bigger. We have seen that they introduced the what is called as the communist flag. Along with that, the second flag, which was of the Indian National Congress, and third of the Muslim League. And this is the last moment in which Jinnah and Patel came together to stop this mutiny, because this mutiny was going out of hand post 22nd of February, and they feared that it would become a coup. So therefore, Patel and Jinnah both went to Bombay, said to them that nobody will prosecute you. You should stop this revolt and mutiny now. We will go for constitutional methods. This is basically the story. The RIN mutiny is generally considered the last nail in the coffin of the independence movement or the British exiting India, for a very simple reason, because now the British could not trust the principal means of controlling the Indians, which is the army. The military had played a very important role in controlling India through force. Now, force could not be used because these men had automatically become nationalistic. So, when nationalism enters the military, it is very difficult to control a country. And that is where from poor food quality, low wages, racial discrimination, 22 ships anchored in Bombay, to having different flags being shown, this movement will transform into something bigger. By 22nd of February, it will become a mass movement which will have workers, students, poor residents, naval ratings in Bombay mills. And a very interesting thing, in the background, a lot of communal riots were happening, but a pure Hindu-Muslim unity was shown here, with police stations being torched. Every important, you can say, symbol of power which represented the British was torched, was destroyed, and this is where it had a popular character. It will have a popular character. So we have to keep into consideration RIN mutiny as an important topic for the examination because of its 80th anniversary. And over and above that, this is an important moment because after this, you will get cabinet mission, then from cabinet to Mountbatten coming, to Attlee, to India getting independence. This is considered to be a very important moment along with INA. INA trials proved to the British that Indian nationalism had now become independent of the leaders. Gandhi was not in the picture also. At the same point of time, RIN mutiny was now proving to the British that they can't control, they can't induce control through the process of military control. So that ways, both played a very important role in the first slap and the second slap, or we'll say the first nail in the coffin, the second nail in the coffin, or both are eye openers for the British that their time in India is now in a way over, because they can't really rely on the same people. The same soldiers were ready to fire upon Indians in Jallianwala Bagh in 1919, but they were not ready to now do anything if the British said. The British officers tried to control the mutiny also. They were not listening to them. Rather, they listened to Jinnah, to Patel, to Nehru, who were considered to be important partners. The third factor which changed the British perception was the 55-45. By the end of 1945-44, the percentage of Indian officers in the ICS had become 55% and 45 were Britishers. This together was the, you can say, triad or trinity which in turn led to the independence coming in 1947. The fact that no leader was needed, Gandhian movement had succeeded. The military cannot be controlled, the military cannot be trusted. At the same point of time, the ICS cannot be trusted also because the nature of the ICS had fully changed with a 55-45 ratio. So interesting, RIN always gives us a lot of, you can say, context for a lot of things which are happening in 46. So before we move on to these smaller articles, what have we discussed today? we have understood that price tracking mechanism needs to be introduced because the DGCA is not capturing it. This will induce transparency within the whole airline industry, third largest industry. Second, we discussed how we have the concept of RIN mutiny and RIN mutiny 80th anniversary, important moment in Indian history, a popular rebellion which started as a mutiny itself. Then we discussed FOPL and the Supreme Court, which is based on the health crisis. Based on the health crisis, we need better nutritional data on the packaging. Anybody has any issue in these three? If you don't have, we'll move on to the last three, which are easier, straightforward, only updates per se. Nothing whatsoever? Perfect. So, as you know, Emmanuel Macron is here in India, and in Bengaluru yesterday, ratings is the word which is used for sailors. In the India-France annual defense dialogue in Bengaluru, we renewed our agreement, defense cooperation agreement, for 10 years. So from now 2026 to 2036, India-France defense cooperation has been locked in. There are certain requests that will be on the app. The 2 p.m. lecture is going to be on the Unacademy app. It is going to be free. Of course, you don't have, it is a free session, special session. You just have to register, notify me. Just click on notify me through that, you can say, link. So, under this defense agreement, there are certain requests which had been made, which is at least 50% Indianization of the Rafale and better maintenance, repair and overall facility in India for Rafale. So something interesting where we are now increasing the fleet of the Rafale itself. And there is one more thing which has been talked about, which is the hammer missiles, that India should be able to manufacture hammer missiles, which gets very well integrated into the Rafale system. So this is an update where we have now renewed our cooperation and our relationship with France, and we are now going to work on this further. So this is the update with regards to this. Then, this is an important article because in the AI summit, which is happening in Delhi as of right now, which was purely mismanaged in the first 2 days, pure chaos was there. Even the IT minister had to apologize for what happened. The Indian Army has a stall, and the Indian Army in that AI summit is showing something quite interesting, which is dual use of military technology through AI. And this is where this stall has attracted a lot of attention from the people who are going there, because in the Bharat Mandapam, it is showcasing multiple new technologies which were military technologies, but now civilian use can be used also. And this is where the following terms become very important for you. Naidu, it could be. So that is why I'm saying special session is free for all. Just have to register through the link. So the first thing which they introduced or are talking about in this, you can say in this summit, is called as Indian Army AI Examiner, which is AI-based assessment and feedback platform automated for Education Ministry. Quite interesting. Then Samyun, which is a geospatial and AI-enabled situational awareness system, which is going to be used for disaster management. Now, this column is very important for you. This is what you have to learn for the examination. Then ACOM, AI as a server, secure and AI-enabled cloud platform for our data to remain sovereign and in India itself. Then Prakshepan, which is an important AI-driven climatology and disaster prediction system. X-Face is a new system which they've introduced, which is for facial recognition. It could be that this X-Face would be integrated with UPSC someday, because as it is AI-based face recognition software is going to be needed for what UPSC is doing generally. Thereafter, a system which can detect deep fakes and AI cybersecurity systems which can help us reduce cyber attacks. Nabdrishti, which is a telemetry and real-time reporting system for mobile telemetry and visualization platform. This can be used for monitoring operational understanding and operations per se. AI-driven driver fatigue detection system used by Mercedes quite a lot. German cars have this. They will be able to see real-time facial recognition, will see how your face looks, and in turn will say if you are sleepy, and therefore it will in turn stop the car. This is used by a lot of high-end German cars. AI in a box, this is for if you go to a remote location where there's no internet per se. AI system which is independent of the internet. And AI powered vehicle tracking systems also are being talked about. So here, wherever there is a term, for example, Nabdrishti, then we have the last, which is Samyun, second, Ekam, third, Prakshepan, four. These are terms which can come in the examination. So you should know them. Directly can be quoted in the examination, because with it recently in the news, Samyun, Prakshepan refers to what? These are armed forces, army-based AI systems which are being used for civilian purposes. The Indian Army has developed it for its military. Now it will use it for civilian purposes also. That was important and interesting. Thereafter, the last and the second last discussion which we need to have is, at the same summit, the IT minister has launched what is called as AI Mission 2.0. In the AI Mission 2.0, 20,000 more GPUs will be added at the government-run Common Compute Cluster, which can be then used by people for research, development, AI infusion, and strengthening common compute in India. Means that, see, everybody cannot develop, everybody cannot use the very expensive GPUs which are needed for AI tracking, AI development, or AI production, even generative AI. So what the government of India is doing is it's creating a common compute server which can be used by different platforms, different institutions. Then these GPUs will allow them to run the tests, run the AI, and do more research and development. So it's a government server which can be used by people if they take permission for it, and there's a process for that, and that will allow this new AI mission to go forward, where GPUs are being added at the cost of the government. It's a public server which can be used by the private members and private institutions. That was interesting because it allows for AI development at a common stage, common computing in that regard. Now, the last is again related to France, which is, see, Airbus has a very important helicopter, and this helicopter is called as the H125, Airbus H125. This H125 has both military and civilian use, meaning you can have private helicopters also. It can be then modified to make it a military helicopter also. That concept, this helicopter will now be produced in India, where in the Tata Advanced Systems final assembly line, Airbus H125 helicopter will be initially assembled and then produced. The idea is very simple. In the Kolar district in Vemagal, the India's first private sector helicopter final assembly line will be created. Everything will be brought in from France. Then it will be assembled here in India. This will be allow for us to understand how these type of sophisticated technologies are developed and used and assembled. and later first it will be only for civilian use, then for export to South Asia, and then for defense purposes. So all the things will be taken into consideration. Now, before I end this session, I want to reiterate this point that at 2 p.m. today on the Unacademy platform, using this QR code, you can register it. The link is given in the description box also. You can practice with me previous year questions and MCQs based out of previous year questions at 2 p.m. on the Unacademy platform. You just have to register and join me. So most probably I'll see all of you at 2 p.m. on the Unacademy platform. Today, Ancient Medieval, 2 sessions already happened for modern India, before 1857, after 1857. Today, Ancient and Medieval. Tomorrow, we will be doing art and culture. So all the links are in the Telegram channel also, which I operate. You can use that also. So that is not an issue, but the picture which you're uploading into the CAF, that needs to be correct. Okay, thank you. Take care, and I'll see you at 2 p.m. and tomorrow and day after I only have CNA, so I'll see you tomorrow and day after also. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.